I don't think I've ever been quite so conscious of our intro music as I have today, and we'll get to the reason for that in just a moment. But welcome, everybody. This is the Camera Life podcast, proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps, makers of fine leather camera straps from Bendigo in Victoria. We've got a cracker of a show today. We've got music, an event photographer and portrait photographer, and she also shoots digital and film. We're joined today by Lucinda Goodwin. Welcome to the show, Lucinda.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, you're very welcome. It's great to have you. It's finally good to get some feminine energy on this show. All we get is greybeards and old men ranting at the sky. And
attempted greybeards. Look at this little thing.
Are there any grey hairs in there? It's hard to tell because you can't actually see any hairs.
There's a couple. They're hiding.
Yeah. Justin's been growing that beard for 6 years now. I just forgot to shave last week. So great to have you on the show. Welcome to the Camera Life. We're going to dive into your full story, your background, your inspirations, what sort of rock royalty you've met, all of those sorts of questions. But first, let's just get from you a quick summary of who you are and what you do. Let's hear it from you.
Yeah, okay. So I've been a music photographer for 15 years, almost 16 years. I've been kicking around festivals and gigs since I was like 17, 18. And just like immersing myself in the music industry. So I had a lot of friends when I was growing up that were musicians and would drag me along to their shows, and I'd be there inevitably early because they had to sound check. And so I would be like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm hanging around for all these hours. So I ended up taking my dad's Pentax digital and just sort of starting to snap away at shows. And then, decided that I wanted to study after high school. And I think the real kicker for me was like, instead of going to schoolies after year 12, I like booked tickets to go to Falls Festival instead. Nice. So I just, and at the time you could take your camera. So I just stood on the barrier side of the fence and just like shot from the crowd. And I was like, yeah, cool. This is what I want to do. This is everything. So studied for 2 years and then was shooting music. Like I was studying 5 days a week and then shooting music almost every night. And then like just backing it up the next morning, going to class at 8 a.m. And then, just sort of rolled on from there.
Wow. That's quite a journey. We're going to unpack that in a little more detail, but first let's jump into the good mornings. Justin. Wow, good morning, Justin.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Thanks, Greg.
You're paying the bill. You're keeping the lights going, so I thought I'd better say hello at least.
We've also got David Mascaro in the chat from San Francisco. Good to see you, David. And Philip Johnson, as always, says good morning, all.
Philip.
And
hey, David.
Lucinda.
Morning.
So if anyone else is watching, go for it. Sorry.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you're listening along live, jump in the chat, ask questions. If you've ever wanted to shoot live music, it is tricky. Lucinda might be able to give you some tips.
Yeah.
There's so much to it. It's something I played in bands when I was younger, before I got into photography, and the world's never kind of crisscrossed much. I've shot a little bit of live music, but never a lot. I think access got pretty difficult as I sort of got out of music and more into photography. The live music kind of scene, the access changed a lot with digital. And anyway, we'll dig into all of that. I'm sure it's a very tricky world to navigate. But
I've only shot two music related things. One was a gig with Fujifilm Australia. It was the Cap Carter hidden event in Port Melbourne. I was asked to do all the behind the scenes street style photography for them, which was fun and huge learning curve. And the only other person that I've photographed that's a musician is Darren Middleton from, what's he from again? Powderfinger.
Yeah.
But that's only because he's a camera whore and we're friends, and every time he sees me with a camera, he wants me to take his portrait. So love you, Darren, if you ever hear this. But look, if you're in the chat, jump in, ask questions, let us know, say hi, let us know you're here, let us know who you are, where you're watching from. And don't forget, guys, that if you are new to the channel, anyone that's watching today, please hit like. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe, tickle the bell, so you get notifications, because every now and then we drop a little sneaky random live show like we did last week. We talked about the Fujifilm X Half, but you can also watch that on our back catalogue. Let's talk more about Lucinda. So, Lucinda, you gave us a brief synopsis about how, you were kicking around festivals from a young age, and you obviously have a very broad passion for music. Tell us about those sort of first experiences with your camera. What were some of the biggest learning opportunities that you gained from those first couple of gigs with the camera?
Yeah, I think the one festival that I was always at was at Queenscliff Music Festival. So that's local to me. That's like 15 minutes down the road. And it was kind of rite of passage for people in my area to go to that festival when you were like 16. You could go by yourself without your parents. And so I was going to that for a fairly long time, and same sort of thing. I was taking my dad's camera and shooting that. But at the time, they didn't have a barrier. They didn't have a photo pit in between the stage and the crowd. It was just like together. So it was a little bit hectic in terms of like trying to shoot and just understanding settings and stuff too, especially because I hadn't studied photography. Like I had at school we had a photography class, like a media class, but the teacher didn't want to teach photography. She only wanted to teach video. And so I ended up dropping out because I was like, I don't want to learn video. I want to learn photo. I want to know how to use a camera for photo purposes. So I ended up dropping out, and I did studio art a year ahead of myself. So you could do like an accelerated learning program where you did your year 12 studio art in year 11. And so I did all photography work in there, but the teacher was not too helpful in terms of like being able to teach me camera skills and stuff, because that wasn't where he came from, and that was fine.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely that big learning curve of like understanding. Essentially, when I went to study higher education photography, they were telling me all the rules of like, don't go over 100 ISO and don't do this and don't do that. And literally then I would go out that night and break every single rule that they had told me in class that day.
That's so good to hear. Yeah.
But like you had to in order to get the shot. Like you can't not do that. You're in a dark, most of the time, band room with one light, especially at that stage in my career where I wasn't shooting like massive, festival hall or Rod Laver arenas or those sorts of things. I definitely occasionally did, but not all the time. So on a Wednesday night, I was in High Street in Northcote, and there was, one red light, and you have to make it work. So I think the settings thing and understanding how to get the shot was so pivotal in getting to where I am now. Like you're essentially trying to predict what someone is doing before they do it.
Yep.
So you can frame up the shot, get the shot, have your composition perfect. Like, yeah, it's when I explain it to somebody that's not in photography, they're like, you are a little bit crazy. Like,
that's your superpower. Hold on to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like shooting sports in that sense, where you're trying to anticipate the action and the key moment so you can be ready for it. Because if you're not ready for it, it's too late. It's already happened.
Yeah.
But it's those iconic shots are always of a key moment that could be a split second.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just before this is going to derail the show really early on today.
Okay.
It's okay. You're fine.
Do you think it's far easier to get great shots as you progress? Because you were just talking about, and I don't remember what it was like the smaller gigs, lighting's terrible, everything's hard, backgrounds are busy and stuff like that. And then as you progress to bigger and bigger shows and bigger artists with great lighting and special effects and everything, do you think it's easier to take great photos at those shows, or is it harder to stand out from the crowd because more photographers are doing the same stuff? Like, what's that like?
It's probably a bit of both. It's probably a lot of both of those things. I feel I used to teach, so I taught for 6 years, and there would be a lot of people that would come up to me like, I want to be a music photographer, but they wanted to do what I was doing at that point in my career. My career hasn't really taken off until sort of like after COVID, ironically. I've been doing this. I've been doing it for a very long time, but like all of a sudden after COVID, I was so incredibly busy that I didn't know where it was coming from. And I was getting bigger and bigger shows, and I was getting I wasn't doing a lot of publication work, which we'll go into at some point as well, but I was getting booked by the artist, or I was getting booked by the festival, or the, you know, programmer, or whoever it was. I wasn't actually doing a lot of publication work. So I was getting all this like higher access to artists and being able to document them. But yeah, like they would want to jump. They would want to like not do the groundwork of going to their local bar every Friday, Saturday night and just like cutting their teeth. They wanted to go straight to Rod Laver Arena. And I get it from a lighting perspective, and like, you know, your settings are a lot easier to manage in those situations, but you have to know how to harness light and how to manipulate a situation like that with your camera in order to get to that place. So it's kind of,
I remember
first chicken or egg kind of vibe.
I remember talking to, so I was just going to say, when we talked to Shane Henderson, do you know Shane? He's a heavy metal photographer. Okay. He does a lot of bands, but he does heavy metal photography mostly. We had him on the show last year. And he was telling us about, you know, with his concert photography, he'd only get it'd only be like the first 2 songs that they were allowed to photograph from memory.
S3.
And so he would be at bigger concerts, he would be in the pit that they create for the photographers. But behind him, there's, you know, tens of thousands of people like clamoring to get closer. There's
crowd
rings
surfing.
of death, crowd surfing, rings of death. There's
I've been kicked in the head before. I've had a beer can chucked at the back of my head.
Smoke, fire.
Oh yeah.
You know, like all of these elements that most photographers never have to comprehend or deal with.
Yeah.
Let alone work out how to shoot. In a really dark environment where sometimes it's pitch black and the lights will come on and there's your golden moment, but you've got to be ready. I think it's a fascinating genre and one that requires a lot of skill and prowess.
You really need to know like your settings on your camera. Like that's the main thing. You need to know where those buttons are with your eyes closed, quite literally.
Yeah.
Like you can't look at the back of your camera. It's too dark.
That's how Justin takes most of his photos with his eyes closed.
Works out fine. Autofocus is so good these days.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the other thing is too, and obviously it's in everywhere. Everyone wants it. Everyone wants to be, you know, an F1 photographer because they'll get better photos than if they were just shooting at their, you know, their local speedway track at home or whatever, you know, like go-kart track. But you got to earn your right to be there as well, because access is such a big thing. Like you've got to prove that you can do it, like you say, that you can do it with your eyes closed if required. That you're going to get good shots, and also what do you do? Who are you doing it for? Where are you delivering value? Who are you delivering it to? And that is something that takes a long time to build. If you just want to go there to take them for fun. Although I did hear of a guy in the States. I'm trying to think of what artist he works with. Massive country artist in the States, super popular. What's that guy's name? Oh, I can't remember.
I think I know who you're talking about, but continue the story and then I'll...
His photographer started doing workshops and he got like the artist was like, hey, that's cool. Like I think it's a very small group. It's in a certain part of the, you know, the set they're all happy with or whatever. And he's like, I can give people this experience that they will never get. It was like a workshop, but also more like experience. You know, you're probably never going to do this for a living. Here's the opportunity to experience what it's like to be in an arena and shoot a famous act. Yeah.
I do draw issue with that though, because I think I looked at it because that artist, I don't name drop, but you can look, you can find it. I think it was about $2,500 to do it.
Yeah. So,
and I know experience at a cost.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if any of that has to go towards, if that's all going to the photographer or if some of that's going to like the artist and the management and the I don't know, whatever, you know, like the sort of some of those, not all of it's going to the photographer. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at the pricing.
I didn't research it too far. I had a friend reach out and showed me and looked at the price tag. I didn't actually look any further than that because again, I'm very privileged in what I get to do, and I get to do those things on the regular. But I don't know whether that included like a ticket to see the rest of the show, because the other thing is that like as a photographer for a publication, you get kicked out after the first 3 songs most of the time. You don't actually get to see the rest of the show.
No. I think it included a workshop. I can't remember before. It also included a full tour of the venue backstage before the show. So I think it was a big experience.
It's leaning kind of into that like VIP, like meet and greet kind of like.
Yep. For a photographer.
Bring a camera.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I remember them saying they take them up right up into like the rafters and the rigging. Like it was quite, I think there was a lot to it. Anyway, whether or not any of us could really afford it, I just thought it was interesting because I would have thought an artist that big would be like, no, we don't need that at our show. You know, like this is just extra people. It's stuff that we don't really want there. But this photographer had built a relationship good enough to be able to do that. To be able to do that, which I thought was cool. But it does sound pricey.
We've got a comment. We've got a question.
Oh, cool.
From David. So with lights constantly changing, are you shooting in a particular mode or always in manual?
Always in manual.
Always in manual.
Always in manual. Yep. And I also use single autofocus point. So I am literally framing the shot before anything happens. So I am quite literally like predicting where it is. I frame everything up and I wait for the movement to come across my screen. Manual. I'm shooting raw. So I've got like parameters to like move. But I feel like I'm really cheating now because I have two Canon mirrorless cameras. I have the R5 and the R5 II. And so I'm seeing exactly what I'm getting spat out on the other end now. Like I started in DSLR land where you would take a shot and then you look and the strobe's gone off and it's completely white. But now I'm seeing through the viewfinder exactly what I'm going to get. So it's actually a lot easier. I'm not looking at my TTL meter. I shouldn't say that out loud, but I very rarely look at it because I'm just seeing exactly what I'm going to get.
What you see is what you get. It was so different because, you know, we shoot with DSLRs, you were always looking at the meter and being like, all right, well, you know, you'd be at like, okay, I need to be about under a stop and a half because it's a dark stage, but there's a bright spotlight and you're trying to, you know, you sort of figure that out.
Yeah, you're trying to like gauge it.
Yeah,
it's really it's quite a challenging with DSLR. It's the TTL meter sometimes is lying to you because depending on your metering mode, it really tricks you.
It was funny. I did a Jerry Jonas workshop years ago, and he taught me the only time that it really stuck in my head how to use your meter in complex situations or in all situations really, because I sort of was, I don't know, just trying to figure it out. But he just said it quickly and it made so much sense. He said, look at the scene. Imagine it was all paint and you could just mush it all together. Roughly what sort of shade, how bright would that shade be? Because 18% grey is your middle of your meter. He said, so if you're looking at the scene and you mush it all together and it's going to be close to white, well, you need, you know, your meter will be reading multiple stops above. And I was like,
that's a really clever way of explaining it.
I know. I was like, that's no wonder he's so famous and does lots of workshops and stuff. Because if you have a big black stage and just one little bit of light and you mix it all together, well, it's still going to be mostly black. Okay, your meter's going to read really low. It was the first time that it really clicked for me. And then we went to Mirrorless 5 years, 10 years later, and it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Well, is this our first Canon photographer on the show, Greg?
Ever.
What?
Is it?
I don't know. No, maybe. Well, the first one that's been brave enough to admit it.
Well, Greg.
Rooftops.
Yes. Well, I'm currently shooting with the R5 II and the R3, and they're amazing. So yes.
I only just got the R5 II. It was very cheap. There was a lot of sales on Black Friday, and I bought it 4 hours before I shot a festival and set it up like within. Nice. I was already in R5 land, so it was not that hard to flip over. Yeah. But
still a brave move.
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah. Again, it's just a tool. All the buttons are the same as the R5, so I'm normally shooting two bodies. So I have a harness on and like one either side. So it was pretty easy to switch over, and I'm always like the next upgrade. So I had the R. That was the first step into mirrorless.
Yeah.
So slightly different layout in the R as it was to the R5. So it was a nicer move to have two camera bodies that are kind of, the buttons are like physically in the same sort of spots, because again, when you're shooting run and gun in the dark, it's really helpful to have sort of like similar camera bodies.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not second guessing which one you got in your hand at the time. You just going with what's happening and trusting in your reflex and your muscle memory to work the piece of kit. While we're on the piece of kit, let's talk about your lenses. So we've talked about your cameras that you're shooting with. What lenses are you typically packing? You said you're wearing a double harness.
Yeah.
We need to get Lucky Strap's double harnesses happening again.
Yeah, I know.
Make that happen.
It's back there. It's
Yeah. We'll get to it one day.
Yeah.
You've got a harness on. Are you wearing a bag at all, or is it just purely 2 cameras, 2 lenses?
So most of the time you can't, like, there's a lot of like etiquette stuff that's kind of unsaid in the photo pit. So I've shot, say, Bluesfest in Byron Bay a fair few times. I was up there a couple of months ago. There is sometimes 300 photographers in the photo pit at any one point.
Wow.
300?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea. I thought it would be like max 10 or something. I don't know. I had no idea.
No. Before COVID, like a normal photo pit could be like up to 20 to 25 photographers at a little tiny venue in Melbourne. Like, so you've got that as well as like maybe 5 or 6 security, maybe management in the photo pit as well, because management sometimes are like tracking their artist on stage. If they're running on stage, they don't want them to fall off or something. They might be in the photo pit for whatever reason. They might have their own photographer. They might have a video person. If they're a bigger show, there's like 3 or 4 like video streams like set up across the front of the stage. There's so many people in there. So
plus security. Yeah,
exactly. So like it's unwritten rule, no bag in the photo pit. You normally stash it sort of underneath the supports. If you've been to a gig before where there's like those metal fences, there's normally like a little like cross beam and a little tiny what looks like a seat. So normally you stash your bag underneath there, and then you just run to that if you need to. Again, I'm lucky enough to be working with a lot of artists now, so I will sometimes have I normally take my Pelican case because I've got a lot of gear if I'm shooting for the artist and I know that I can stash it somewhere. So sometimes that'll go in the green room, and I actually have like a little tiny like bum bag that I put over my shoulder just to have like batteries and stuff in it, potentially a smaller lens if I need it. I also sometimes am notorious for just putting a lens on a speaker stack when I'm shooting for the artist and the only one there. I will just like leave lenses all over the place and then have to go around and collect them all back up again.
I love that so much. I used to do that at weddings. I had wedding guests bring me lenses. I'd like sit them in like a flower bed at a venue or something, and they'd walk over and had dirt on it, and they were like, "Is this yours?" And I was like, "Yeah, sorry, that's mine.
It's fine.
Thank you. It's fine." I probably would have forgot where I put it, but thanks. That's awesome. So you're a bit, when you get in the zone, you're just in the zone. And
my lenses have been covered in beer. They've like been through rain. Like I like mistreat those poor things like no tomorrow, because like you have to. I've photographed in like torrential rain. Like it's just part of the job. Like if it breaks, I'm just going to replace it. It's fine. It's whatever. So going back to the original question, my normal lens setup, 70 to 200 2.8, 24 to 70 2.8, 16 35 2.8. I do have the 8 to 15 fisheye f4. I then have a couple of other lenses. Like I have a macro lens, mainly for portraiture work. I bought that secondhand a little while ago, and I love it.
Which lens is that?
The 100mm f2. I think
2.8, I think.
2.8 maybe, yeah.
Are these RF or adapted EF or a bit of a mixture?
Adapted EF.
All of them?
So all of them. So I haven't flipped. So I had Evolution was 7D, 5D Mark III. I bought a 6D 6D, just straight 6D. And then I was like, right, I need to upgrade the 5D. So what am I going to go? Am I going to go 5D4? Or am I going to go mirrorless? And at the time I was teaching, and a lot of the time we were getting a lot more mirrorless cameras through, and I didn't really understand how they worked. So I was like, right, I probably should just go the R. They were pretty much the same spec. So at the time I was like, right, they're both new release. Let's just pick a lane. If I hate it, I'll just get rid of it and go back to DSLR. But I was like, at some point I need to flip. I don't want to get stuck in this like weird crossover of like the digital film days. I was like, I need to either be ahead or I'll fall behind.
Yep.
So yeah, I got the adapter for the R, and then I haven't really made the switch over because I was still shooting DSLR and mirrorless about 2 years ago. I was doing both. So it was really hard to like, I don't want to carry extra lenses around. I already have to like cart enough shit around. So yeah, I was just like, I'm just going to adapt it. And I haven't moved since. I feel like I will at some stage once they start going. Like I know my 70-200 was like, it's abused. It's my favorite lens. I use it all the time. It is practically permanently affixed to my camera. But I've had that repaired twice already. Like the autofocus motor died in it once. And I think something else happened to it, the internals of it. So once I kind of like get to that next point of like having to repair stuff, I know Canon was saying that they're not going to sort of stock spare parts and stuff. So that'll be sort of then when I have to go, right, I'm going to invest in a new set of kit. But I have to have 2.8 glass for everything that I shoot because of the situation that I'm in. So that makes sure that I'm spending the most amount of money on glass. So.
You know what you need? You need an ambassadorship with Canon. We've got some.
I would love that. Canon,
we'll keep talking. We'll keep talking with Jen. Jen, hook her up, Jen.
Please, Jen.
So now look into these. Have you seen the 28-70 2.8 STM lens that's recently come out, and the 16-28? So I'm shooting with them. This is currently just, you can't tell, but this is the 16-28 2.8 that I've got. Zooming in and out. Where is it? I shot. Oh, yeah.
He's got so much gear, he doesn't know where he's put it.
I got a lot of gear. I shot an entire mountain biking shoot with this to test it out on the one lens, 28-70, sports, fast sports, a lot of it wide open. So this is it's super compact. It weighs half the weight of what your 24-70 2.8 would. It's still 2.8. The focusing was really accurate. The only downside is obviously you lose 24. So you're going 28-70 instead of 24-70, so you lose a little bit of your wide. And it's also, this position here is not active. You've got to twist it to there, and then it's in its functional position of 28-70, and then it's like stow it away to put in the bag. But like it's a 51.2, but like it's hard to see, but it's way smaller.
Because I have a friend that shoots RF lenses, and I tested a couple out, and I was just like, they're just so big. Like, why did we make mirrorless cameras smaller and then made the lenses bigger?
That's what they're working on. They've just was it a rumor we talked about on Monday night about the final of the trilogy of those lenses?
So I've got the wide, and this is the normal. There's rumors that they're going to do a 70-150.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, if you love your 70-200, the 70-200 RF, you've probably already played with it. I'm guessing it's so compact anyway, and it's great. Like if that's your like mega lens, I'd probably stick with that, and then this might do in your 24-70, and it's lighter, and I think they're still expensive. They're about $2,000 instead of whatever the other ones are, 3.5 or something. Yeah. So anyway, I would highly, and then if you're really trying to save space and money,
I'll just go. You guys just talk about Canon.
There's never Canon people on the podcast, Greg. It's my time to shine.
I feel like you should be vetting some people here and just like, are you, which model are you? Let's pick a box.
That's the first question. We'd like to hear on the podcast, what gear do you use?
Yeah.
Listen, the reason why Justin's so excited is because when we first ignited this podcast last year and I came on board, I'm a Fuji shooter, and I have a lot of contacts and friends and colleagues and peers that all shoot Fujifilm. And so, we wanted to get interesting guests on. And so my first port of call was my Fuji shooters, and everyone started calling this the Fuji Life podcast. And now Justin's finally got a friend he can chat to. And I feel very out of place.
Do you want me to just kick you off, Greg, and we'll just I'll bring you back on once we start talking about photography again.
I'll just sit back and be quiet for a change.
It's gear time.
I did shoot Nikon. So I did shoot Nikon. I used to do school photos with a past podcast human that you had on. Was my boss.
Mark.
That's cool. Mark.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I shot that for like 6.5 years, and so
I think we've had
Fuji bodies and Nikon bodies for group photos. So yeah, I was Fuji and Nikon for that, which was very confusing when I'd then go after 9 hours at school photos, go and photograph in the photo pit and wouldn't work out why the camera and the lens wouldn't come off because I was trying to turn it the wrong way.
So you were shooting Nikon at work and then using your own kit Canon, because that I switched from Canon to Nikon and then back to Canon again. And one of the hardest things was just the rotation of the zoom and the rotation of the lens coupling, whatever you call it.
Yeah, like I would be in the photo pit and I'd have 3 songs and I'd literally been shooting all week at work on a Nikon and I'm like, I don't have time to be fumbling around with trying to switch lenses. And now I'm like, why is it not coming off? Oh shit! It was the work camera that I was trying to do take the lens off. So yeah, it was always a little bit confusing in my brain.
That would have been
I think
tough.
Mark Bluehoot has. I think we've had about. I think he might be the 5th person we've had on that he's recruited or has had working in his team
at some stage.
I see what's going on.
Yeah, he's had a lot of photographers come through that place.
Yeah, which is great.
Did you learn anything that you've been able to apply to your broader, photographic business while you were working there?
Yeah, like a lot.
Don't work with kids.
But kids and musicians, not that dissimilar.
Just chasing them around.
Still.
Yeah, exactly. I think some of it was like more interpersonal skill stuff for me. I left year 12. Went straight into a photography course for 2 years full time in Melbourne and then went straight into that. So I finished the course in November. I think I got the job in the start of December that year and then rolled into the first like term 1 hecticness. Wow. And so like I hadn't been out in the industry yet. Like I'd been shooting like gigs and stuff, but I hadn't I didn't ever like step into that freelance world until recently. So it was just a nice way to like have a somewhat stable income, have like people around you that were all passionate about photography and you could just like, it was a 3-hour car ride on average each morning and all you would talk about is gear and cameras and photos and like all of that sort of stuff because everyone had that same common interest. But it was also like talking to different people from different backgrounds and understanding how to get a good reaction out of somebody as well, or how to read people, I think was the one skill that I got more so solidified in my shooting for school photos. Because a prep kid would sit down and you would have to try and read the room in terms of like, are they going to want to interact with me? Are they going to understand my like what I'm saying to them? Like, and sometimes there was a language barrier. Sometimes English was not first language. And so it was really hard for sometimes to communicate. So yeah, actions and really hamming things up and reading people was like one of the biggest things. I actually recently did a press shoot with a Japanese like metalcore all-girl group band.
Oh, who was that?
I can't remember the name for the life of me. It was like
wasn't Baby Metal?
No, it wasn't then.
Really cool.
But yeah, I got a really random email from somebody. They were in Melbourne and they wanted to do some press shots and they wanted it to look like Melbourne, but not touristy Melbourne. Yeah. And I didn't really even think about it until I got there and I was like, English is not their first language. So I'm going to have to like, use mannerisms and hand gestures to try and get them to do. Too. Yeah. And which is all of that school photo stuff came back because sometimes that's what you had to do. I used to do kinder photos as well. So that was more like
I've done that.
Run around and document that sort of stuff with kids. So again, you have to try and work on their level in terms of like a 3-year-old might not be able to, understand the way that you're speaking. So you have to kind of try and direct or turn it into a game or, try and make it work.
It's actually a valuable lesson because a couple of weeks ago we went on the BFOP Camera House birthday day out. BFOP, for those that don't know, is a bright festival of photography, and we had a day where Justin and I went and captured some behind the scenes stuff. Check out the video on the channel too; it's awesome. Yeah. It's so good. Justin did a great job of capturing footage, and Matt Crummins edited it.
He sure
put it
did.
Some music and put it all together, and it looks amazing. So please check that out, guys. It's on the channel now, but don't do it now. Later.
No, not now.
We're talking to Lucinda.
Stay with us.
Lucinda here. I just completely forgot what my segue was.
About communicating, being able to communicate, language barriers. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Dennis probably summed it up better anyway. Dennis
I'm
Smith
52. I'm old. Things just leave.
The School of Light says, reading people, love it. Such a wildly valuable skill. I agree.
Yeah.
While we're doing comments, there's a few others in here.
I remembered what I was going to say.
David Miscaro says, I was almost a fan. He's a Nikon guy.
Sorry.
So probably you've lost him.
He's got 16 cameras. So.
I've got more than that. So.
I'm excited. So we've already talked gear, and there's going to be later in the podcast, there's going to be a whole nother gear section where we talk about every single camera that you own. I'm excited.
We don't have time for that. You've got to catch a flight.
We'll figure it out. We'll go fast. Jim is in the chat. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
How's it going? We've been Jim's been rearranging our little lucky office, trying to make it a nice product photography spot. So I'm pretty excited for that. We're going to do some new product photography.
Can I come as well? Can I do some too?
Absolutely.
Right. We'll book that in. Can you
maybe we'll have a product from Melbourne to Bendigo. Maybe we'll have a product photography competition between the three of us, and then see who the winner is. We'll let the chat decide.
I've got some skills.
I know.
I'm excited for that.
Guess what? I'm always the winner because I get the product photos from all three of us. So, Jim says, how did we let a Canon shooter in? Fuji won't be happy. Greg, he also wanted to know, are you still shooting with two different bodies? Which I think you did kind of answer, but
yeah. So R5 and R5 II.
Yeah,
but they're not too different. You know, like the movie video switching is different, and a few other little, like the on-off switch and stuff like that. But
I keep stuffing up the on-off switch because it's on the opposite side. That's the one thing that I'll complain about. I keep switching it into video mode. I'm like, damn it. But yeah, the layout is fairly similar. Like it's probably the closest that I've had two camera bodies in terms of physical layout, which is great.
And the R6 Mark II is very similar as well, which is good because there are a lot of people that run an R5 and an R6 for high ISO and stuff like that. So it's good that they've kept them all quite similar.
They are good at doing that. It's just I try not to upgrade too often. I don't love being like a gear snob like that. I upgrade when I need to. When there's functions that I need, like I'm doing a lot more hybrid shooting at the moment. So sometimes that second body turns into a video photo sort of caliber.
Well, I'm going to write that down. We're going to talk about that later.
Get into that.
Yeah.
Because that is
good old hybrid shooting. Yeah.
Hybrid shooting, it's something I've had to learn over the past sort of 5 years or so. And I think there's still a lot of photographers that are very interested in it, but it's just figuring out, like it seems like a big leap, to get started. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Few more comments because they were coming in crazy. Pete Mallow says, hi guys. Hi Lucinda. Hi Pete.
Hey Pete. Pete's joining us in a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
And Dennis says, just been on your website, Lucinda. How refreshing. What do you mean refreshing? I mean, it's great. Yeah. What? Explain. Elaborate, Dennis.
I kind of agree with Dennis. There's a lot of really good energy. You scroll through the sites, through the images, even just on your homepage, and there's this beautiful energy and mix of color and lighting, and there's a real masterful. It's a beautifully curated website. I have to be fair.
The homepage looks great. It really does. Like straight away, you're like, okay, this person.
Yeah. We understand
really great live music.
But you start looking at every face, trying to work out. Oh, do I know that artist? Who is that? Yeah. Oh, wow, there's what's in the. Like it's.
Yeah, that's what happens at exhibitions too. When I do an exhibition, everyone's like, "Oh, who is this person? Who's that person? Do I know this person?"
We'll get to that too.
Yeah, I'm busy.
One final gear question before we get out of the chat. David Mascaro asked auto ISO.
No, all manual.
Full manual.
Literally all manual. Yeah, no, I can't risk going into auto ISO land.
Because the lighting changes so fast that the camera would be bouncing around and you'd lose your subject.
No.
Okay.
I also turned on the eye tracking in the R5 II, and I hated it. Like the one where it tracks your eye.
Oh, the eye tracking
looking.
autofocus point. Yes.
So I learnt very quickly. I turned it on for 2 seconds and turned it off, and I was like, I don't think I can use this. So again, the friend that I talked to about gear and stuff, he was like, you're gonna love it. It's gonna be so good for you. And I was like, nah, I hate it. And he's like, why? I'm like, because I, again, am splitting my vision in the photo pit. I'm looking through the viewfinder, but in the other eye, I'm trying to pan as to what's going on stage or what's going on in the photo pit, so I don't get like hit by a flying crowd surfer or a security guard, or is there someone coming off the stage? Like I'm constantly like looking all over the place.
Yeah.
So like it was just going wild. And I'm like, I hate this. I'm sure it works for a lot of photographers. It just doesn't work for me.
Did you find that you because I've played with it a bit as well, and it can work. I've never left it on for that long.
I think portraiture, like it would be great.
Yeah.
But like live stuff, it was just not. Yeah.
I found that I scanned, I'm trying to do it here, but everything's backwards. I often scanned the edges with my eye of the frame.
Yep.
And so I wanted it to stay steady on the subject that was in the right spot. But I'm looking at the edges and I'm looking at things, so it's jumping around. Was it kind of that sort of thing as well? So not just looking away from the camera, but also scanning your frame.
Essentially, it's just ping ponging across the screen because I'm just like constantly. Like if you're photographing an acoustic artist that's like person at mic stand with a guitar, you're not going to be scanning too much.
Yeah.
If you're photographing someone who has pyro and like North Lane, which is the shot that I gave you guys for the cover image with all the pyro and stuff. Like I knew where the pyro cues were. I knew in what songs it was happening, but I didn't know exactly where. There was also CO2 going on. There was crowd surfers coming in. There was like security guards running through the pit that they're running around on stage. Like there's too much going on. Like it's just too constant for it to lock anything on.
More gear talk for a second.
That's okay. That's fine.
Have you ever had hands-on with the R3 or the R1?
Yes. So it's so heavy. It's so heavy.
Yeah, true. But there's a feature that I wanted to come into the R5 Mark II and they didn't do it. I was so annoyed. Although I love you, Canon, so don't hurt me.
Me too. But if you want to give me one, it's fine.
Free cameras for everybody.
I'll cope.
We should. Did you get you won't use it because you use a dual strap, but it's just nice to have on your shelves and things. Did you get one of these with your R5 Mark II? With the limited edition leather strap with Kentaro's artwork on it?
To be honest, I don't even think I took the strap out of the box.
It would have
been a lucky strap in the box.
It would have been in. It
no,
would
there
have been
wasn't
in like a limited edition box like this with a sticker on it and stuff.
No,
we'll get you one
of those.
Yeah,
I've got a few hiding. They went with Canon's first 1000 R5 Mark IIs in Australia.
Okay.
So it depends on when you bought it as to whether you got one or not. But we'll send one down to sit on your shelf. Give it a little,
Sounds
little
good.
memento.
I've got some film cameras that would go perfectly on.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, where was I going with that? The R3, there's a feature on it that I wish was on the R5 Mark II. There's a autofocus AF on button on the back, but it's got an optical sensor that your thumb rests on. And so instead of using your thumb joystick to move the autofocus points, your thumb just slides over the top of it, almost like if you're whoops, wrong button. If your thumb, if your thumb was resting over your mouse button and you move it around, it works like that. And so it's instant.
I've got mine set up so I swipe my thumb over the screen.
Oh, okay. How does that go?
To select focus.
Yeah, because I use single autofocus point. So I used to use the joystick on everything because I didn't have any other option. But once the R5 came in, you can set it up so on the right-hand side, so you normally have your camera in your right hand. I'm actually left-handed. So a lot of people don't know this. And they go, I didn't know you were left-handed. I was like, well, because they don't make left-handed cameras. Although I do have a Pentax 6.7 that has a left-hand grip, and I'm very excited about it. So, you can set it up so that you can use your thumb to swipe across the LCD screen and it will move the autofocus point. So I have my camera up to my face and I'm just like, my thumb is kind of on the screen moving the focus point around, which I find so easy.
There's two options for that, I think. There's one where it's the whole screen and one where it's a designated sort of corner that's closer to where your thumb is. Which one do you use?
I think it might be the whole screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
so you
find
just
that
reach
too
across. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I have a battery grip on the R5. I just haven't got the battery grip for the R5 II yet.
Yeah.
I just like it from a portrait shutter button point of view, but also like battery life. Because again, if 3-day festivals, I prefer to just have more batteries on me than to have to switch mid-set.
Yeah. Just keep it going, which is the other benefit of like R3, R1 and those big beefy batteries and the grip built in and stuff like that. But
yeah, I've just been so in, although it doesn't really matter now, but I was in like LPE6 land. Like I had so many spares, and then they upgraded the batteries, so I've ended up getting more. But like I've been LPE6 batteries since the start. So every single camera I've owned is been that. So I've just built this collection of batteries. So yeah, that was maybe one deciding factor, honestly, which sounds so stupid, but like that was the one deciding factor for not going higher, is that I just didn't want to carry those massive batteries around.
Yeah, I had 5 batteries for my R5, and then the R5 Mark II requires the one with the little extra bit of graphic on it. Yeah, the P or whatever, to be able to shoot the video codecs that I need and stuff. And I was like, Canon, why did you do this to me?
Yeah, well, so I as I said, I bought the 5D R5 II the day of a festival, like 4 hours before. Yeah. And then realized that those batteries would not even boot my camera. So I had to 8 a.m. I drove to the other side of town to go and pinch some off this friend to last me the weekend, because no one had them in stock when I bought it. So literally all of Australia was out of stock. I couldn't buy a battery to save my life. They were like, we can put you on a wait list, but it'll be 6 months. And I was like, cool.
Yeah. That was the other thing. They didn't have it. Like, not just I needed to buy new batteries. They were like, sorry, we can't sell you one.
You just can't. We don't have any.
Yeah, that was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, so a friend of mine came in clutch on that. He lent me a couple so I could get through the festival. But yeah, it was a little bit annoying. But now we're all good. I prefer with gear, I prefer things to be compatible. So if I'd gone up, then I'm carrying 2 lots of batteries.
Yeah,
I'm carrying
that's a good
2 sets of stuff. So I just try and stay in ecosystems where things all work together. Because the other thing is, I thought about like upgrading RF lenses, but then I'm like, if I don't have all of them, then I'm going to have to adapt some and not others. And then I've got to remember to bring the adapter, and then because I just leave the adapters on. So I take, my cameras get stored body only in my Pelican case, but they stay with the adapter on. And so I know when I pull everything out, because sometimes I'll get a message like 4 hours before a show going, hey, can you cover this? And I like race home, and I just grab shit out of my Pelican case, throw it in a camera bag and leave. So like I need to know that things are going to work. And so if I'd forgotten an adapter or I misplace it, or you're trying to do that thing where you're switching lenses in the dark and you're like, oh shit, I didn't take the adapter off. Now, it just gets clunky. Yeah. So to have sort of same ecosystem for everything at the moment sort of works for me.
It makes total sense. But unfortunately, that downside means, if you go to RF lenses at some point, it's like it's a big thing that you have to plan for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why it's kind of been held off for a little while longer until I can just hit the trigger and get a few.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Well, let's talk a little. Let's jump into comments, and then I want to talk a little bit more about some of your accolades and your involvement in the Australian music scene. I think we can build up a bit of a case for that Canon ambassadorship.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Let's do that. We'll do a half an hour on just like why you deserve free RF lenses. So Dennis elaborated on the website. He says, I get inspired when I look at a body of work and it feels like I'm spending time with an explorer. Variety of look and feel, experimenting with techniques, not 500 images that look and feel the same. And energy galore combined with gentleness when it's right. Lovely.
Yeah.
The refreshing part is we are smashed with feeds and galleries that are the same so often.
Yeah.
So, very cool.
Very nice indeed.
And finally, we've got Jeremy in the chat. Good to see you, Jeremy. He actually bought my R5 off me, and he said it's doing well. So good to see you, Jeremy. I'm glad you're keeping an eye on it. Anyway.
I've got a couple of questions just about your education. It's always a topic that interests me because I was self-taught, although not true. I learnt film photography back in art school. It was like a year 13 course. But other than that, I've done, other than some workshops, I wasn't I wasn't trained in photography at an institution. What was that experience like for you? And what do you think was the biggest takeaway that's supported you in your career now?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting conversation because as I said, I used to teach. So I taught up until last year. I taught for 6 years, and that was literally the only job that I've ever had that I needed the piece of paper to say that I was a photographer or that I had studied photography. That was literally the only job. No one's asking you for the piece of paper. They're asking you for your folio. They're asking for your Instagram or your website. They're not asking you for the diploma of photography and photo imaging that I have. It's actually like stashed in a cupboard behind me somewhere. I don't even know where it is. But yeah, I think for me, I was quite young. I was fresh 18-year-old. And I needed that, like, just the theory of it. I just needed a little bit of guidance, a little bit of theory, and to understand what was going on before then. Like, it's that age-old saying of, like, you need to know the rules in order to break them. So I needed to understand how cameras worked and all of that component of it. I think it also built great discipline for me as well. Not that I wasn't disciplined. I was pretty good in school and stuff, but it was just going through the motions of getting what at the time I could have probably got off YouTube that would have taken me 10 to 15 years was 2 years of high intensity learning in an environment with people that also wanted to do the same thing. Yeah. So I think that was the most important part. I think also then from my teaching background, I used to say to them the exact same thing. Like, you are learning, because they would always be like, oh, I could just learn this on YouTube. And I was like, well, you can, but you can't ask YouTube questions. You can on this podcast, but like, you can't ask point blank, like, how much did you charge for this shoot? How did you do this? How did, they had face-to-face contact with me and other trainers who could explain to them exactly how things had worked in the industry. And so that's one piece of it, is like understanding your camera, understanding the mechanics of how this piece of equipment works. But then you also have to go out and understand the industry. So understanding how to get to that point, because a lot of students that I taught as well as like people that I studied with, I vividly remember, and I tell this every time I like go and do a keynote or like speak at anything. My second year, the first day, the head trainer came in and said, one of you will make it and the rest of you will go back to your part-time jobs. And that's how we started our second year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And I don't think they thought it was going to be me, because I was the youngest in the class and I was doing something that was not necessarily considered photography and was told so. That music photography is not a genre. I was point blank told that multiple times. But I still did it.
Whoa.
I still did it. So I was told, like, through high school that I needed to, like, when I said I want to do photography, because I actually came from a background of, so I did the studio art a year ahead of myself, but my whole year 12 was outdoor ed, sport, health, English and maths. I was big into my sport. I played sport like 5 nights a week. And I was really like, I want to go and do PE teaching, because I had a really cool PE teacher at the time and I like loved her and she was great. And then I finished my studio art, and then I was halfway through year 12 and I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I can do something for the rest of my life that is not creative in some way, because I've always been creative. And so I switched all of my preferences for study and I was like, I want to do photography. And they're like, yeah, but you're going to have to get a real job. And so I had all these things mounting up. I had a media teacher that didn't want to teach me photography. I had the careers counselor telling me I had to get a real job. And then I went to study for 2 years and then I was told that one of you will make it, and music photography was not a real genre. And then I got asked to come back to that high school and talk about what I was doing. I got asked to go back to my TAFE and talk about what I was doing. Like, it turned out fine in the end. But yeah, I think that study kind of let me understand the mechanics of how to do things. I also learned where I studied, we did film for the whole first semester. Didn't touch a digital camera.
That's awesome.
I learnt on film.
Yeah.
So I had shot some film, like Dad had a Pentax K1000. I used to shoot with that on family holidays. I used to pinch that off him. I still have it now. It's on a shelf like behind me here. And so I kind of understood some of it, but not all of it. I didn't really understand what the numbers meant and what shutter speed meant. And so I think film is a really like, and I say it to young photographers and to people I used to teach, like film is such a good learning ground because everything is physical and mechanical. Everything makes sense. Whereas you go to digital and it's not as intuitive because it's just numbers on a screen. Yeah. Whereas there's dials and there's film and there's processes you have to go through in the film world. Yeah. So I was shooting, my first assignment was like a large format portrait, Hollywood portrait in the studio. Had to process it myself. That's never awesome. Processed film in my life.
Yeah. Lit with flash in the studio? Lit with
Yep.
Really? So the first thing they're like, here, take this, take these lights, figure out what the lights are going to do.
Your head. Yep. The big old bellows extension, like cloth overhead. Everything's flipped and upside down. You have to focus it pre-shooting it because then you got to slide the dark slide, the film cartridge in, and then take the dark slide out and shoot it. The model's not allowed to move because it's a really long exposure.
Wow. It's almost like
large format, medium format, and 35mm. Like in my whole first semester, I didn't touch a digital camera.
Throw you straight in the deep end. That's awesome. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's like they just push you out of a plane with a parachute. Here. It's day one.
With a really old parachute.
Yeah.
Like a World War II surplus. I just want to roll back for a couple of points that you made. And I think it's fair to say that I know you said that, everything worked out. You had the odds were stacked against you. You didn't have a lot of support. You didn't have a lot of people believing in your vision. And you said, it worked out in the end, but that came at a cost of hard work and determination. I don't know many 100%. Young people that get halfway through year 12 and choose to shift focus because they have this personal epiphany that actually, I'm heading in the wrong direction. When I was that age, I don't want to tell you what I was doing at that age, but let's just say I was scratching my head and bumping into things a lot. I had no idea what direction I wanted to take. I just, like you, I knew I wanted to be creative, but I didn't know anything about it. And career guidance was against it. My teachers were against it. And it took me a long time to find my footing. But for you personally, I think there's a lot to celebrate there that not only did it work out in the end and you became a photographer for a genre that you were told wasn't a genre, but you have mastered it. You have accelerated your profile, your presence, your capabilities, and your output, not through it just working out, but through effort and determination. And I think a single-minded focus on, I want to be a photographer and I want to be the best that I can be at this. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah, I tackle things a lot like that. It's just, I was like, right, I'm going to prove all these people wrong. I'm going to get in there and do it. Like,
not a genre. I'll show you not a genre.
I'll show you.
That's awesome.
And I think it's fair to say you have.
I want to ask. I want to ask about the first job, shooting the school portraits. Was it hard to get that job? Because I'm imagining like you go through a class of people who want to make a living with photography. And I'm imagining, like, do you remember how many people were in that class roughly or something? Like,
no. Oh, like my photography class.
Yeah.
So I did first year and second year. Some people didn't come over. So I did, for context, I did a Cert 3 and 4 in photography and then a diploma in photography and photo imaging.
Right.
And so some people didn't come over. I think we started with about 30.
Yeah.
I think we ended with about 15.
15. And I just can't imagine there being 15 jobs available for photographers, even around Melbourne and stuff. You know what I mean? Like for graduate photographers too. Like, hey, we've all just finished. All right, where are you going to work? And I'm just imagining everyone being like, Macca's, like, and trying to make it work.
And that's where that lecturer was right. Like, everyone just went back because it was, and I used to say it to my students too, not in as harsher words, but like, you've learned all the skills. I've given you all of the skills to point a camera in the right direction and learn Lightroom and learn how to edit and all of those things. you are not going to get a knock on the door and say, hey, I want you to be my photographer for X, Y, and Z. You have to now go hustle, which is almost the harder part. Like, and some students didn't understand that. And I feel like some people that I studied with also didn't understand that the hard part was to actually get your foot in the door. And the hard part is the networking and talking to people and just being a good human sometimes is the deciding factor of you getting a job or not. If you have a good reputation in the industry of the, you know, the thing that you do, and you can have recommendations from other people in that industry, that is sometimes the deciding factor of who they choose.
So
I think that's amazing feedback and advice.
It's a great advice. How did you stand out? Do you think many people applied for that job with Mark shooting school portraits? Was that a tough job to get?
Yeah, he'd always have like a fair few interviews come through. I think the year that I got employed, there was 4 of us. So 4 of us onboarded. I think there was like 20 or 30 maybe interviewed at the time.
So what made you stand out, do you think? What sort of what work did you put in to be like, I want that, you know, this maybe isn't my dream, it's not music, but I want this job because I want to be working as a photographer?
I think Mark can see the potential in people and sees, you know, from any imagery. And I learnt this from him to also take into, I used to do the interviews for the students coming into the course that I was teaching. And so you just get a photo put in front of you. It doesn't have to be of anything in particular. It could be of whatever. But can that person point the camera in the right direction? Do they understand focal length? Do they understand depth of field? Do they understand shutter speed? You can get that from a visual representation. I also think that I was swayed because I was maybe the only person, I feel like I was born in the wrong era. I bought a physical folio.
Nice.
Well played.
And I still make physical folios.
Yep.
Okay. That's the answer. That's the sort of answer I was looking for. I was like, I feel like you did something that was extra effort that other people were like, well, I'm just going to go and get this job, and they didn't get it, you know?
And they grab their phone and you scroll through their phone, or at the time Instagram was like, again, I'm showing my age here. I graduated in 2012. So 2012 would have been when I did the interview. And so Instagram at the time, you couldn't upload photos from your camera. It was only from your phone. You could only upload photos from your phone at that point.
That's right.
So like Instagram wasn't a folio based place. I had a website. We had to build one through school, but it was not, you know, what it is now. And so we actually had a folio building class, and part of that was like printing a folio. I print through Blurb a lot, and we had someone come in at the time and like talk us through sort of how that works. And now with the plugins in Lightroom, it's so easy to make a folio through there. And I still do it. I'm a little bit behind, let's be honest. But normally every year I print like a big coffee table book of everything in chronological order, so that I have the physical images. It's also really nice to see your work in print. I think two years ago when I did the exhibition, I did a zine, which was the first like physical thing that I had made that I sold. So people could buy it. And I think there's still a couple left. I think I have like 2 or 3. But yeah, it was the first physical thing that I made that people could then have in their house. And it was just a collection of work from that previous year that I loved. And so I have one in my camera bag. I have one in my car. So when people ask me what I do and like, you know, there's conversation about it, I will normally pull that out rather than my phone.
That's so good.
I think it's really clever.
So these printed folios, are they like if you were going to say have coffee with a potential client, say a band that wants you to come and shoot specifically for them at an event or even a tour or something, would you bring your latest book? Yeah. A lot of it nowadays is like people find you on Instagram. That is my main that is where people are finding me. And then they'll send an email through there. Most of the time they're not looking at my website, which I find interesting. But yeah, a lot of the time I'll leave them. I also have again, I'm very old school. I have postcard prints. So I have some little postcard prints that I'll give people
if I'm networking or whatever, because I feel like I do have business cards, but they're a better impression if they've got a photo of what you do. So if you give that over, it's like, oh, that's that photographer that I met at that thing. I also have guitar pics.
I saw those in one of the
I saw those too. That's so cool. Clever. That's a clever.
Musicians always forget their guitar picks, and someone's like, oh, does anyone have a guitar pick? They're not expecting the photographer to be like, yeah, I have one.
Got one.
So they're in my Pelican case. And also stickers as well. I do stickers a lot because everyone has Pelican cases. We can slap a sticker on a Pelican case or a guitar case. So yeah,
who did you get to design your sticker, or did you do it?
I have just recently redone my logo. It's a fellow photographer and graphic designer in Brisbane, female, Josie, I think her name is, and just asked her if she would design my updated logo.
Interesting. We need some stickers. We need some Camera Life stickers. I've been I want to do like a sticker pack, of like various photography kind of stickery things. Anyway, and trying to find someone that gets photography that can do it,
Yeah, I can hook you up.
Yeah, that'd be
nice. Cool. While on the subject, Dennis has asked, tell us a bit about your Blurb experience, keen as.
Okay. Yeah, so it's definitely come a long way since I did my very first one. Paper stocks have improved. Shipping's really fast now too. So at the time, I used to have to do it in InDesign because there wasn't these plugins that you could just spit out. Are you guys familiar with Blurb at all?
Yeah, I've done a couple of photo books through Blurb, both soft cover and hard cover, large and small.
I haven't ordered one, so I'd like you don't have to spend a lot of time. If you can just walk me through, like if I had to go from photos in my Lightroom catalog to getting a book, what have I got to do?
There is a book tab up the top.
I've seen this.
Click on that, and you can just spit out the size that you want, the pages, and then they've got preset layouts that you literally just drag and drop your photos into.
That's
and then you can upload it from Lightroom.
But I need a Blurb plugin first. I need to download a Blurb plugin.
Potentially, I haven't done it for a little while, but if you just go to the Blurb website, they'll probably tell you how to do it. But
Blurb I think also had their own proproprietary design platform that you can. It's like browser based,
and you can also just do it in InDesign as well. Still, you can do it through any of those. But Lightroom is how I do it now.
Oh, sorry, you go.
Sorry. Dennis is curious about the build quality. I assume he means of the book itself, like the cover and spine and all that sort of stuff. You mean, Dennis?
I drag mine around to every exhibition that I do, and I normally like the hardcover. I just like hardcover books more than I like sort of paperback books. But the quality is definitely gone up in recent years. I've seen just so big of an improvement in paper stock and that sort of thing. They used to do too that you could do a little sample. You could get a sample pack of all the papers if you're a tactile person like me and want to touch all the paper and look at how it would look for photos. But they have really great descriptions on how your photos will be rendered on certain papers, because there's pearl stock versus flat stock versus uncoated and all of those nerdy paper things. But they also have lots of sales on, so you try and wait for the sale to come through.
Yeah, they often have a 30%.
Yeah,
right. Sign up to their mailing list kind of thing, and just wait for the right time. Okay.
Yeah.
Dennis, I did my first Blurb book it'd be 10 years ago, from one of my trips to Tokyo, and I did hardcover, and it's still in great shape. It looks brand new. So the quality.
The magazines are also a great shout too. They do the magazines, and they're good to slide into your camera bag. I did a couple of those. The zine that I made, I did through Mixam, which are a printing press. They're actually based in Brunswick, I think. But that's more of a high volume. So I ordered 100 of them, so it worked out a bit cheaper. If you order one, it's $100. So that's more of that realm, but they're great if you're going to print multiple of them. But the magazine through Blurb I've also done, just as a little folio to carry around. I definitely recommend it, to just get off your device. It's also such a point of difference when you're talking to someone and you whip out a printed folio or book or something, or everyone's like, oh my God, wow. I haven't looked through a coffee table book in such a long time, which I can't relate because I have so many. But for other people, it's very different.
It is interesting. I recently have been hunting for a good magazine. I used to love collecting magazines back in the day when, before everything went online. And I've been looking at magazines like Frankie, is it Jimmy?
Oh, Jimmy Hornets?
Jimmy Hornet, which is an ad-free magazine. And I also just got one from, it's an interior design one they do like small property, what is it called? Like small interior design spaces, like tiny houses and small Japanese houses and stuff. And I just got their Japan edition of their biannual magazine. And it's just beautiful to be able to flick through something that's physical. The paper feels and smells amazing. It's just such a completely different experience compared to just, reading an article on a website or a blog or whatever it may be.
It sounds like Rodney might have bought one. He said, I bought one, love it. I'm assuming he's talking about the zines, maybe. That's cool.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. Now, I just want to take a bit of a moment, once again, to build up your portfolio for Canon to sign you up as an ambassador.
I really love that you guys are really leaning in on this. I love it.
This is what we're here for.
Right.
We're here to support you. So one of you've won a number of awards, and you've also been nominated for a number of awards. But one of the things that I thought stood out to me was Beat Magazine, which is a Melbourne. Does it go to regional Victoria as well?
It does, yeah.
So it's a music magazine, and it's been around forever. I used to pick up Beat magazines. I think it was it came out every week, and it would have all the events, and it would have photos from last week's events, and such a fun magazine to flick through back in the day. But you topped Beat Magazine's list of 5 females to know in the Australian music industry in 2020.
Yeah.
And that list obviously also includes musicians.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah. You were number one.
Huge accomplishment.
Not number one, but it was
not number one. Still, top 5. Top. That's insane.
Justin, go easy.
Oh no, you said topped. I thought. I was like, oh my god, you were the number one. It's insane. Regardless, wow. Of all people in the music industry that do anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess was a big part of that you created music from the Burbs.
Yeah.
During COVID, during lockdowns, the music industry really struggled. I know firsthand from talking to my friend Darren about it. There was a lot of push from Australian musicians to do something to support the arts because everyone really, really struggled, and a lot of artists disappeared from the scene altogether.
Correct.
Because
a lot of photographers as well.
Yeah, mortgages have to be paid, and kids need to be fed, and if you're not working gigs, there's no money coming in. But so talk to us a bit about music from the Blurbs. What was the seed that created that little nugget of an adventure?
Yeah, so I'm based in Geelong, so my lockdown rules were slightly lesser than central Melbourne. And I was trying at the time to I was really burnt out. I was really burnt out from the industry. At the point where we sort of went into all the lockdowns, I was kind of thinking about just stopping doing music photography altogether. I was just banging my head against a brick wall. And so the pandemic, not that we loved being locked in our houses, but it came at a good time for me to reset. And so, the lockdown laws were slightly different, where we could visit people outside in their front yards, one-on-one. And so I was like, right, I want to do more video work. I want to understand how this works. I was teaching online, so I was kind of understanding all the live streaming stuff as well. I was getting my head around that. And I was like, this might be a good time for me to just pivot into something that's slightly different, get some video skills under my belt. I'd studied a little bit of video when I did study. But it was a time for me to kind of go, right, what can I do to keep myself occupied in this time that I'm not able to shoot? And so I started this project where I would go to musicians in my local area's house. We would film out in their front yard or their backyard a little live clip of them performing a song, and it would come out every Sunday night, and there would be a series of photos and portraits that would go with that. And then that way it was a little bit of this promoting of their music, as well as me learning video and understanding video editing and like multiple camera angles and all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of, something to keep my brain moving in what was a bit of a shitty time.
Yeah. I think it's remarkable to see something, to find a way to survive that wasn't purely about you. It was also about supporting the industry. It was about recognizing that, hey, just remember, guys, everyone's doing it tough.
It was helping share that story and sharing people's work. And just trying to, I feel like at that time too, everyone was really rallying behind their local scene, whatever that scene was, whether it was their local cafe or their local, library or whatever it was. There was this real sense of like being passionate about their local area. And so I was just like, well, how can I do that in my own way?
I love it. That's a great idea. Do you remember what gave you the idea? Was it literally just the fact that you were like, okay, two people can be together outside? What can I do with that? Do you remember how it evolved into what it was?
Yeah, I think the whole concept of being able to visit each other outside was a great motivator for me, because then it also made sure that I was like going out and actually speaking to someone. And that might have been the only time I spoke to someone all week, but like it was good for just that like check-in with your friends as well, going, hey, how you going? Like, are you okay? Like, how's life treating you? Like, and it was just like this normalcy that we wouldn't normally get.
Yeah. I think one other accolade that I just want to touch on while we've got you. So in 2023, you gained, you were nominated as a finalist in the Australian Women in Music Awards photography category for music photography. Yep. And in 2023, you also, crack a year for you, won the Ross Lipson Award for which recognises and celebrates creative women in the Geelong region.
In 2024, I won that
honour. Here we go. You won what, sorry?
I won the Australian Women in Music Awards last year.
I was going to say, I thought I read somewhere that you won it. So I was like, oh, maybe I read that wrong. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Nice trophy.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was very heavy. I didn't think about bringing it home. It's 3 kilos and I almost went over my baggage allowance.
That's unreal.
That's amazing.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And now recently you held a solo exhibition of your work, and it's something that a lot of photographers aspire to. For some it's about expanding their business to the point where they can open a gallery. For others it's about just creating an effectively running business. You've gone that step higher, and a lot of us have dreamed of this, of holding your own solo exhibition. Tell us about that experience. What was that like for you, and where did that start to where it to where you got to a point where, okay, it's done, I'm ready, let's pop the champagne, let's let everyone in?
I try to exhibit solo every 2 years. So I've done multiple solo shows in multiple different ways. So I think my first one was at the same place that Retrospect 001 was held at Platform Arts in Geelong. And so I think that first one was 2013 or 14 maybe. I really try to exhibit every sort of 2 years. I sometimes do a lot of group shows as well. You can, like, if you go to my about page on my website, there's all my exhibitions that I've done. But I built that from study as well. Like, we used to have to exhibit a lot. And so I really love printing my own work and like seeing it in print. A lot of my friends haven't seen themselves printed in a frame in an exhibition. So that's also a kick for them. But yeah, this retrospect was during COVID. It would have been sort of that 10-year mark of my career, and I was like, how do I commemorate that? How do I wrap that with a nice little bow and just do something? So there was a really last minute opportunity. I put an expression of interest into a gallery space at Platform again, and most of the time with an exhibition you have to have sort of a proposition for them and like explain and go through all the artist statements and all of those sorts of things. And that was already, I'd done that the year before, thinking that in 2 years' time I would do it. And then all of a sudden they had a last minute cancellation and they were like, can you do an exhibition in a month and a half?
Oh, wow.
I was like, so I did it. But yeah, it was like over 250 pieces of work. I had a week to hang it. And I was hanging stuff and putting labels up until about an hour before the opening.
Oh, wow.
But it is a really great space because it was upstairs and they kind of had like these 2 staircases with this landing. And I'd said to them, can I hang stuff on the staircases and like in all of these different like crevices and stuff? And they're like, sure, you can do whatever. So it was not a traditional gallery space in that way. I bought in temporary fencing. So the temporary fencing that you'd put around like a job site,
building site,
or a festival. And so I hung work on those temporary fencing that went through the middle of the gallery. I had Polaroids and on all sorts of like alternate processing, like cyanotypes and contact sheets and stuff like stuck to the walls. I had a full-on like what you would describe as like a band room. You know how they have all the band posters from previous shows. When you walked in, that whole front wall was just covered in like band posters that I had shot and like covered head to toe ceiling in band posters, gaff taped to the walls. I had like these big perspex boxes with like all of my media passes that I've collected over the years because I still keep all of them. So yeah, it's pretty crazy to get it happening in about a month and a half, 2 months. But it worked. It happened. I actually got really inspired. I went to the Andy Warhol exhibition in Adelaide a couple of months before. And yeah, there was some really great, I love going to art galleries and going and looking and seeing how they display work. I love to do things in a little bit of an alternative way. I don't love just hanging frames on walls. So yeah, I collected all of these like ideas and started to sort of piece those together. So yeah, it was
very creative.
Big show, but yeah, it definitely was
massive. That's a huge effort.
Impressive.
I just want to ask you, the very first award that you've listed on your website was the Qantas Spirit of Youth Awards as a finalist. And you also had the High Tide Festival solo showcase. In 2010, how old were you, if you don't mind me asking? I know Mum said
17.
never asked that. But...
Wow.
So you were
17, turning 18.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's and so that was your first solo exhibition, was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was in like this little bakery in Torquay.
Yep.
Oh, the
man himself, Mark Bluetooth. Lucinda's exhibitions have always been great, as is her work. Can't stay and watch, but looking forward to catching up on your chat. Thanks for popping in, Mark.
Thanks, mate. We'll talk soon. We'll have to get you back on the show.
Yeah. Where to from here? I got a million questions written down, so I can take this in whatever direction you want.
Fire away, boss.
All right. Let's go with.
You really do have a million.
I've got a lot. I don't know which direction to go. All right, but this is
on the size of your notepad.
This is an easy one.
It's huge.
I don't think it'll take too long. So you used to play sport every night of the week when you're in high school and stuff. Did you ever try sports photography or experiment with that as a potential career option?
I did. Like I have a younger brother who I'd take photos of him playing footy and cricket and stuff. Friends in high school I would shoot. It wasn't something that sort of crossed my mind. It definitely, I think my skill set would like overlap a lot now.
Yeah.
I do go to the footy still. I follow Geelong, so I go to the footy all the time. But yeah, I've never gone into that world.
Yeah, it's just not something that's really on your radar too much. It's not a work that it's more of a, I'm going to the footy to enjoy it. I'm not necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Was there what you would think of now looking back as a big break moment when it comes to maybe a particular show that you got to photograph or an artist that you worked with where you were like, it really felt like you were moving into another level of your career? Do you remember any moments that feel like that?
Yeah. I not like one specifically, but as I said, like after COVID, so like as I said, I was really burnt out like in 2019? 2019, 2020, I was just like, getting to a point where I was like not doing a lot of shows and there was things trickling in, but there wasn't heaps. And so, yeah, when the pandemic hit, I was kind of like, okay, cool. Like I have an imposed, forced break. Like I have to stop. And then about 4 or 5 months into the pandemic, I was like, I don't know if I'll be okay if I don't get to do this ever again, which was not the feeling I went into the pandemic with.
Yeah.
And so the very first show back was the Foo Fighters at GMHBA Stadium. Now, I was shooting for a publication, so I had first 3 songs, but that was my first gig back. I remember COVID testing in front of the label rep at the front gate. We had to COVID test in front of them to make sure that we're allowed in the photo pit.
Were you worried that you were like, you have no reason to be, but you were like, who knows?
Yeah, slightly. I hadn't had it. So I was like, oh gosh, like it was very nerve wracking. But I remember like just before they got on stage, the heavens open and it's pissing down rain. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is the best feeling ever. Like it's just, yeah, it was so much energy. Like it was the first gig back in Geelong. The place was packed. It's just all my friends were there and they're like, oh my God, I saw you in the photo pit. Like it was just like that feeling again was like, oh yeah, okay, we're back. And it's going to happen. Yeah.
Is this it? Like, is this the gallery? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah, there might be. That's a different one, but yeah.
It is too. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to loop through
Sorry, Justin's new at this.
No.
Yeah, I haven't used the internet before. I'm figuring it out. But yeah.
Yeah, so it was a pretty special moment to come back. Now it was a little bit on again, off again after that, but for whatever reason, like everything started to fall into place. Like I was getting booked directly by artists that I had never worked with before. I feel like COVID, again, we were talking about like people had mortgages to pay, people had children to feed, they had to get quote unquote real jobs. And so I feel like everyone in the industry actually appreciated a lot more that they had to pay for these things, because a lot of the earlier work that I did was unpaid. You didn't get paid to shoot for publications. So I was not shooting a lot of paid work. A lot of local stuff was paid, but not a lot of the bigger stuff was. And so all of a sudden after COVID, like everyone I think had this newfound appreciation for art in different ways. And they're like, no, we need to respect the fact that this person is trying to make a living out of this. And so we need to pay accordingly. And so just, yeah, there was a few like things trickling in and then more things came of it and then more. And like to the point now where I'm already sort of almost booked out for next month. And like, I've just got almost too much work. But just, yeah, that switch flipped and I didn't know why that was. And I feel like that maybe it comes down to that everyone sort of was a bit more like aware of everyone else's situation in the world.
But I think listening to your story and having read your bio and hearing you speak today, I think there's a real element there of that you're a natural survivor. And you came through the other side of COVID where many didn't, still clinging to, or not clinging because that sounds desperate, but still knowing the direction that you wanted to take, even though you had some wobbles at the start of COVID because you were burnt out. It happens to everybody. Then emerging from that situation, probably even more determined to stick with the lane that you've chosen, in your own words, the lane that you've chosen, and make it worthwhile I think that's really commendable. I just want to read out, just for the folks listening and watching along, some of the people that you've had the opportunity to photograph. So we've got Sir Elton John, Ed Sheeran, who should also be a Sir in my books, Foo Fighters, obviously, Fleetwood Mac, Lauryn Hill, Liam Gallagher from Oasis, is that right? Molly Meldrum, and Iggy Pop. You've also photographed, a whole bunch of people, including Offspring, Paul Kelly, Australian artist, Human Nature. An impressive list of clients there. Well done, you. I say. Thanks. I think that in itself is also a sign of success.
Massive. Have you ever got to meet anyone that was so that you were a big fan of, and if so, have you ever had one of those like we're not worthy moments out of Wayne's World? You know, when they're like, we're not worthy, we're not worthy, we suck. Is that ever happened?
There's a lot of times where I've like met people. I'm gonna really name drop here. Okay, so we're just gonna hold on to our hat.
Let's do it.
This is your show, kiddo. Go for it.
I photographed the ARIA Awards a couple of years in a row, and one year I went to the after party with the editor that I was shooting for, and we somehow ended up having beers on the rooftop of the Star Casino at the ARIA's after party with Molly Meldrum. I was like 21 at the time, and nice. I got home at like 2 a.m. or something, and I messaged my dad the next day, and I was like, oh, hey, I had drinks with Molly Meldrum last night. He's like, what? What?
Yeah. So random.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been a lot of times where I've like worked with artists that I've like ended up becoming friends with. Gang of Youths is another one that I used to shoot like in their very early career. Like they were playing to Northcote Social Club, Not Sold Out. Now they're like living in London and they're doing amazing things. They're playing huge festivals, and like I used to just go and hang out with them after the show and have like a drink in the beer garden and catch up on life. And it was just very normal for me. But they're just like humans.
They're just humans, just crazy music humans.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit, or talk to us, all of us, a little bit about shooting for just me, shooting for publications versus working with artists directly. How do you build the relationships with either the artist or the publication, depending on what you're trying to do? How does all that dynamic work in your industry?
Yeah, so there's like a couple of ways that you can get access to shooting shows. So obviously, like local level, you can just reach out to an artist and be like, hey, I see you're in town. Do you want some photos? Bridge that gap. The one way that most people get into it is shooting for a magazine or a publication. Most of those magazines are now online, but I used to shoot for Beat Magazine. I used to shoot for The Music, Forte Magazine as well. Lots of different publications back in the day. So when I was studying, I think I was on like 12 different like publications. And so you would send a folio of your work. You would show that you could do the thing that you were saying you could do. And either they would send out an email like every Monday, or you would request shows. And so there was kind of like a honesty system kind of vibe where they would put your name against shows, and then they would get a reviewer for that show. They would then reach out to the PR person. They would then come back and say yay or nay. Here's the contract. And then they would let you into the show for first 3 songs. Sometimes it was less. Sometimes it's in the photo pit versus the sound desk. So the photo pit is the part at the very front of the stage, between the stage and the crowd. The sound desk is where the desk is, and it's normally like way at the back of the venue, which is the less ideal place to shoot because everything perspective-wise is very flat, and so everyone's shots look exactly the same. But it just depends on the artist as to what their rules are. But then, an artist or a manager may reach out to you and say, hey, we've got this show. We'd like to bring you on board to shoot for us. And so, that's normally, so magazine publication stuff is normally unpaid versus artist stuff normally paid. And then, so you have full access. You typically get an access all areas or AAA pass. So you can get on stage, you can be in the photo pit, you can shoot from the crowd, you can shoot from the sound desk. So you normally have the full set to cover what you need to cover, which is great because then you also clear out the photo pit after the first 3 songs. So normally I'll try and shoot from different vantage points for the first 3 songs to let all the media photographers shoot what they need to shoot. And then I'll get in the photo pit and then I'll shoot from there or on stage or, side stage.
So you would have some sort of different, I don't know, wristband or it'll be a lanyard thing. Yes.
A lanyard or a sticker or
Yeah. So because otherwise they'll try and boot you out with the other 3,000 photographers that are in the pit.
Sometimes they still try to beat you out. They don't. They just go, you're a person with a camera, get out. And it's like, oh, I'm shooting for the artist. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. Normally I try and speak to the security guard beforehand. So typically I'll Sometimes I'll go to the show with the artist, or sometimes I'll get in a van with them and I'll document sort of the behind the scenes stuff, and then we're kind of there for sound check and all that sort of stuff. And I'll normally try and make a point of like saying to the security guard, hey, I'm shooting for this band, like you'll probably see me sort of running in between, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, like no worries. And most of the time they won't bother you because they know that you're supposed to be there. So it's just, again, being respectful of, they've got a job to do, you've got a job to do. So just explaining things in a calm fashion to be like, even if they do stop you in the middle of shooting, it's like, oh, sorry, like here's my pass, like I'm meant to be here. And they're like, okay, cool.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I'm not a Canon photographer, but I do have a question. So, Lucinda, what about away from the stage? Like, you know, when a band is, say, recording an album, or maybe they want some images for their own website, their own social media, or perhaps even for an album cover, is that the sort of work that you will also get involved in?
Yeah. So I've just
talk to us about some of that away from the stage stuff.
Yeah, I've just done 2 portrait shoots this week. Both of them are local artists that I work with. One of them, I was up at Mount Dandenong at like 9 a.m. It was like 4 degrees. And yeah, we were shooting some press stuff, some promo shots for them because they've got a release coming out. So they need some new updated press work. So I did that. So that was all on location stuff, which I haven't done a lot of, to be honest, lately. A lot of it has been studio work, a lot of in studio on paper rolls, seamless rolls. But yeah, and then over the weekend, I actually went away up to the Macedon Ranges and we shot a lot of additional work or content pieces for an artist who's also doing a release. I've already shot the album artwork for that about a year ago. It's coming out in the end of June. So like it's been like 12 months in the making, but we're shooting just some additional content pieces. We're shooting some video stuff because again, like musicians are expected to be content creators and they don't love that. You know, neither do we. But yeah, so I was just helping them sort of like produce some content. So just, like lip syncing to camera so that they can put the track over the top of it to like snippet it down for TikToks and social media stuff, and just shooting just some general content-y things. But yeah, I've also been doing a lot of, studio work, press work, and that sort of stuff as well.
Very talented.
Very cool. So is it possible to make a living as a live music? I know it's possible. Don't get me wrong. Like I know there's one person or whatever. There's always someone. But is it possible? Is it realistic to make a living as a live music photographer in 2025?
I think purely live, no. Like you only have so many days that you can shoot, and you can really only shoot 1 gig a day. Now, it doesn't, I've done multiple a day, and it's not fun from opposite sides of Victoria. But like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays are your gig days normally. Now, there is exceptions to that rule. I shot a Monday night gig like 2 weeks ago, but you have limited days that you can be working. And I don't think just live is sustainable. I think you have to have those other income streams. I am full-time freelance now. I got made redundant from my job last year. So I'm full-time freelance. I do a bit of social media management for a local business. So I do 3 days a week. So that obviously helps supplement my income. But then as I said to you guys before we started the podcast, I've been doing a lot of press work lately. So I haven't been shooting as much live stuff. Winter's always a funny time for gigs. No one really wants to go out. It's too cold. It's wet. It's all the things. So a lot of artists are gearing up to release when the weather's a little bit nicer and festival season comes around and that sort of stuff. So it's the pre-production almost of doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, a lot of press work at the moment. But yeah, a lot of I work with APRA AMCOS, who are a big body for the music industry. So I work a lot with them as well. So doing some networking events and different recording sessions and those sorts of things as well. So more of that event stuff. I did the APRA AMCOS Music Awards a couple of weeks ago at the Melbourne Town Hall. So those sorts of events supplement sort of the live scene, but are not too far from what it is.
Yep.
So that's actually perfect. You said you do a little bit of social media management for another business. I have written down here Instagram tips for photographers, because your Instagram is pretty active, and you said you're actually meeting and booking and working with artists. They're discovering you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Help us. Help me. Help. What do you need to do as a photographer on Instagram these days to be discovered, to be seen, to get out there?
Yeah, I think a lot of like my feed is not that active. I feel like I literally had a message from someone the other day going, "Oh my God, you are literally everywhere on my newsfeed." I'm like, how? I'm not, I don't feel like I'm that busy. Like, I'm always posting on my stories and I'm always like highlighting what I'm doing or what I'm working on. But I think the things that I've been doing a bit of consulting for musicians as well on social media. I think being authentic and like genuine about what you're sharing or what you're doing. But also sharing like processes. Like, I feel like the photography industry is really gatekeepy. And like no one wants to really share information. I like get messages all the time. I just like blurt out like, here's like 100 things that I would, tell you. But also I don't know the answer to this particular question, but here's someone that does, like, just giving people time. I find it really interesting too. Like, I've been trying to be more active on TikTok lately. And just talking about what my industry looks like and what the behind the scenes of it looks like, because for a lot of people that's quite interesting, which we don't think about as photographers talking to other photographers. Like we do, like, I find everyone else's stories and how they work and that sort of stuff interesting, but like to the people that are hiring you, like they find that really intriguing as to like how you've got to that point and how you work and how maybe difficult some things are that they don't even know about. Like, I remember speaking to a musician friend who I'd been photographing since I started, and he always used to do this thing where he'd jump off a drum kit or he'd jump at a particular point and I'd always nail it, like always. And he's like, how do you do that? And I was like, well, because in this song you jump at this beat and you do this at this beat and you stand this way and you do this and then you walk over there and you do this. And he's like, what? So what do you mean? I was like, because you do the same thing every show, whether you've rehearsed it or not, just intuitively that's what you do. And so I know where to be to get the shot. But like that frame of that thought process is not something that someone that's not in my industry knows. And so they find it really interesting to hear.
It's also pattern recognition, which not everyone does.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, for socials, it's just like sharing those authentic like stories and genuine stories about like what you do and your processes and just things that you're passionate about.
Okay, so that's the broad overview, the 1,000-foot view. The strategy is be authentic and share your process. Now, help us tactically. Like, what do we actually do? Is there any examples on here that we can see, or like, is it reels? As you said, there's a lot of stories. Do you film stuff with your phone? Do you use a GoPro while you're shooting? Like, what is it that you're doing that allows you to create content for social media, but you're still actually working at the same time as well?
It's really, really hard as a music photographer to record yourself doing the thing that you're doing, because you're recording for somebody else. So I use some tools. So like there's a couple of angles there that you can see. The one that says I can do a lot in 15 minutes, which we probably don't want to share for sound purposes because it's copyrighted music. So there's also some other videos and reels that you can see on my socials. I have the Meta Ray-Bans.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of the time will shoot. They're like aggressive. I don't think. Oh, actually, they're here. They're pretty aggressive looking.
Put them on.
Put them on. Hang on, I gotta.
They're very like.
While we do this,
they're blue light ones because I don't need to wear glasses. But there's a little camera here.
Hang on. Let's just. How do I? Oh, I can't.
Hey, everybody.
I don't know how to make you big. Let me just do
That's
this.
okay. We don't.
Oh, there we go. No. Yep. Yeah, look at those things.
Camera. There's also speakers back here, which are really great. But yeah, there's a little camera and there's a little button, and so I can shoot whilst wearing them. So
that's insane.
Yeah, they're quite big and they're quite bulky. They look a bit funny, but I have been shooting with these before and no one has realized, like I've shot a whole festival and then someone's seen me like, how the hell did you shoot a whole like recap video whilst you were shooting? I was like, I was wearing glasses. And they're like, what?
Is there any footage that we can see on your Instagram here? I just want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, if you click on the Reels tab, that's probably the easier way to find it.
I'm
It's on the left, Justin.
I'm getting there. No. So
keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling.
What one can I show you? Yeah, like the Steven Sanchez one, the one the one next to the red backdrop.
Oh, this one?
That one, yeah. So there's a little bit of footage there. So this is all shot with my Ray-Bans, and then it just flips up the photos of what I've shot.
I love this way of just having a clip and then going to photos. I've never thought of that. I've always thought that a reel needs to be like a lot of video and a lot of editing.
No, it can just be photos like flipping up on a screen. That can. But
you use the clips at the start to hook people in with some video content, and then you're like, here's what I created.
Here's what I did. Yeah. Because it's too hard for me to shoot like whole sets of stuff. I used to like mount a GoPro to a hot shoe, which works, but it's like a little bit bulky. Also, I need the hot shoe now because I'm shooting lots of other stuff. The studio stuff is a little easier because I can just set up a camera and like shoot behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, the Ray-Bans are definitely helpful. So
are they expensive? So I've got so many. I've never met anyone that owns them.
Yeah, that's normally what happens. I think they're about $400 or $500, which if you think about it, GoPros are about the same price. I've also got a GoPro, but like it's just so much more convenient for me. And again, it's very niche for my specific purposes of like, I can't set up a phone in the photo pit to film me shooting because that's a hazard. So I can in a studio, but I can't in. So I normally will ask if I've got friends at a show, I'll sometimes ask them to shoot some little clips of me just so I've got some context video of, and I keep reusing it. But yeah, the Ray-Ban thing is a really nice way to see a point of view of what a photographer would. It's like it's almost like a video game. Like you're seeing a point of view of.
Yeah. Well, I've done a heap of POV like photography videos. I did one a day for 30 days on YouTube, but I had to use either a GoPro
strap to the chest,
or I ended up coming up with this crazy contraption. I don't have it here, that holds one of those DJI Osmo Pocket gimbal things. Yeah,
and it holds it. That's what my webcam is currently. I've got one of those as well.
They're great, but
love them.
when you're walking down the street, you know, in Bendigo, which is a bigger town, but it's not a big town, you feel pretty. There's a lot of, like you feel like everyone's looking at you because you've got this like wiggly gimbal on your chest, and I'm like, I don't know, it makes me feel uncomfortable. So, I don't know. Are there any other what other? So, if anyone was going to look at these things, any advice, any guidance of like, what's good about them, what's bad about them?
Justin's asking for himself right now, not for anyone else's sake.
He's about to take them on his trip. He's about to
He probably will.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to look like that guy.
So I don't need to wear glasses, but you can actually get them with your prescription put in them. So I just got the ones that you've got on screen with the blue light. For me, you can get them in sunglasses as well, but I'm shooting inside most of the time at night, so it would look real silly if I was wearing sunglasses in the photo pit. So I got them as blue light glasses because I can also use them when I'm editing. Well, not so much when I'm editing, just like admin sort of vibes. But yeah, at the time I bought them, there wasn't as many styles. I have Wayfarer sunnies, so I kind of knew that the shape would look good on my face anyway. But yeah, they came out with, so you only used to be able to film for like 30 seconds at a time. Now they've upgraded the firmware so you can do about 3 minutes at a time, and it goes automatically to your phone. So it literally, like, you open the app and it just automatically is downloading to your phone.
That's crazy.
I like that.
Yeah, it's wild.
So it's as if you've just filmed it on your phone, but you're hands free and it's on your, but you don't have to like transfer and do all that sort of stuff.
No.
It does 3 minutes, and then only 3 minutes, or you can do more. Like, how does that work? Like, how many clips could you do with one charge?
I don't know. I don't. I very rarely charge them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. They do have a charging case, so the charges. It's like your AirPods. It like charges when you put it in the case. But yeah, they are a great little tool that I try and chuck in my camera. This is why I have to have less lenses, is because I've got all these random little like content creation bits in my camera bag as well. But yeah, so it's a great way to sort of get that point of view thing happening. But yeah, also like
you should get some of the artists to wear them.
Yeah, I have thought about that actually.
Imagine.
Yeah.
The POV of like being a famous artist on stage would be so good.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
So, imagine the drum. Like, I mean, they've probably done it. People probably.
We'll just keep it amongst ourselves.
They're just a drummer. People probably strap GoPros to drummers' heads all the time. Doesn't matter. They're in the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so cool.
That's
anyway,
really cool.
So,
that's amazing.
Finding ways to make content.
That's
again,
really clever.
Not feeling like there's a barrier. Like I definitely find it hard to live stuff. Like I've got so much footage of me shooting in studios and me doing like just random portraiture shoots. But yeah, the live stuff is really hard for me to get content because I'm just actively like in that brain space.
I think that's one of the things that's so compelling about your Instagram feed is that it's not just you putting up images of the people that you've photographed or the events you've been to or whatever it may be. There's that interpersonal stuff threaded throughout your whole feed of here I am doing this and oh, look, here I won an award. Imagine, I read one where you talked about, in a matter of hours, I'm going to find out, or weeks or whatever it was, that I'm going to find out that I'm redundant and this is going to be my full-time thing now. And, there's a real sense of, connectedness with anyone that's viewing your page, that it's not just here I take pretty photos, but here I am as a person and a photographer and a creative, and here's my story whilst I capture all these stories. I think it's a really lovely mix.
Yeah, thanks.
So finally on Instagram, before we move on to any other topics we can squeeze in at the end of the show. So is there anything, so basically what I'm hearing is I should post more. I should document a little bit of what I'm doing, but don't feel like I need to make these super high production reels that we're filming for hours and doing a heap of edits. It can just be a quick little clip and then the photos I took.
Yeah.
Is there anything like best bang for your buck? Is there anything that you've sort of tried on Instagram where you've been like, it's probably not worth doing that? It's you don't get a lot out of it. The time and the effort wasn't worth trying it, or do you not analyze it in that much detail?
It depends on the person, I think, which is a really shit way to answer the question, but it really does. Like I do social media management for like a vintage business, so it's not even like in what I do, but that works differently to then how I post personally. Like times are different. Like I will normally try and post like of a night because most of musicians are looking at their phones at that point in time, whereas the business that I do, like it's 7 a.m. before people are going to work. Like the timing is different, the content is different. The other thing is that I consume a lot of content, and I consume in a different way to most, in the ways that I am actively looking at trends and actively looking at things happening in socials and how I can swing it to make it make sense in my industry.
I wondered that because I saw one that said
so the one that we were talking about with the like in 7 days I'll find out that I'm made redundant from my 9 to 5. So that was a trend. That's audio was a trend that was like I find out like there's a life-changing moment. And so then I go, right, I've got the, like, without even thinking, I was like, oh, well, that happened 2 weeks ago. Like I've got the footage, I've got the thing. So, just piece it together. So there's a lot of like, again, TikTok is a place where I find a lot of that sort of content. And there's a lot of pages and stuff that will create like, this is a trending sound and this is what you should put with it. So like, here is the caption and here is sort of the general idea of what the content could be. So there was also one, the Sabrina Carpenter song called Please, Please, Please. Have we heard that song? Is that familiar?
I don't know. Can't remember.
I have teenage kids, I hear.
Yeah. So the lyric is just please, please, please. And so I was like, oh, I've got such a great concept for this. And so a lot of people were like putting up the song and going, please, please, please do this, don't do that. So I was like, please, please, please stop shaking your Polaroids. So I'm
I saw that one.
I'm an active Polaroid girly. I have a Polaroid camera tattooed to the back of my arm. And every single time I take a Polaroid of someone, they're like, you have to shake it. I was like, do not shake the Polaroid. Put it in a dark place where it's warm and let it process, and do not shake it. But so then I was like, read the caption. And then in the caption, I explained why you don't shake a Polaroid. And that went viral. It had like 500,000 views in about a week. And I was like, what on earth? Like, Oof. It was just me standing in my bedroom, just spitting out a Polaroid and shaking it. That was it. It was just that. There was no photos. There was nothing attached to it. But because it was relatable and it was informative, people were engaging with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
absolutely
picking out trends.
Okay, picking out trends, which you're getting. So you're getting the trends mostly from TikTok, or a lot of the times.
All Reels feeds as well. Reels. Like, it just depends. Like, yeah.
But you're finding Instagram is still the core of sort of what's generating the inquiries and things like that. Most of that's through Instagram still.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of messages about, I'll get, hey, found your work on Instagram. Like, that is the opening line of the email.
Okay.
So I know a lot of my work comes from there. And I think you think about it too, as a lot of people in my niche, they're using Instagram as a search engine. They use it like Google.
Yeah.
So they're looking for Melbourne music photographer, which is all through my keywording of all of my stuff. Yeah. So I'm the first thing that pops up on Instagram when it says Melbourne music photographer.
Wow. That's cool.
So then everything's kind of coming through to me. They're like, oh, well, I found them. Like, and I think too, like, I rate pretty highly if you type in Melbourne music photographer in Google as well. Like, I'm on the first page. So again,
and that's no easy task these days.
No.
Yeah. No. But it's just like learning how to keyword and learning how to do that. Like, I made my website myself. I do all this SEO back end of stuff as well. Like, it's just learning how to integrate those things. And again, maybe I'm just really nerdy and that's my jam. Yeah. And understanding all of that. But
it's another superpower.
It's that, but it's also Google does recognize, like, you've put a lot of work onto your website. You've done a lot of great work. You know, it's like there is also that. So you can't just like, you can, I mean, companies do try and like hack SEO and stuff, but you also just need to do it for 16 years and build a very big profile. And then Google's like, oh, this person's very relevant in this industry. Yeah. And that is also a big part of it too. Yeah. Quick question from Dennis Smith. Is there a dream artist you haven't shot but would love to? Who is it?
Taylor Swift.
Oh,
I got really close.
Did you really?
Really close.
Tell us what happened.
I was the photographer for the publication the year before. I got in and they're like, yep, if we get a media pass, it's yours. And she didn't have any media in Melbourne, so I didn't get to shoot it.
So sometimes she would do a show with zero media because she does so many shows. Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah. She's not trying to. Oh, she's got to raise her profile. I mean, she's got to,
But she normally has Getty photographers document the whole set. So there is artists bigger artists that don't have she doesn't have a dedicated photographer. She has like a team of Getty that photograph it. So sometimes the images will be supplied for reviews and stuff. So sometimes they just won't give out photo passes because that's additional staff that they need to put on. And like you have to get escorted in and escorted out of the venue as well. So there's like extra pieces to the puzzle that they have to put on. So sometimes they'll just say, no, we're not doing media, or they might just do they might do photos on the first stop of a tour. Like a lot of artists do that. If they really because it can be off-putting if there's 30 photographers running in the photo pit at your feet, it could be off-putting for someone on stage.
Especially for such a carefully kind of manicured stage show.
Yeah.
With lots of moving parts.
It's a logistic thing and they just go, we're not doing shooting.
The other thing I guess would be like for someone as high profile as Taylor Swift, like less security screening because these people are very close to her in terms of, I don't know, like you just never know. And then also if there's any potential that a photographer slips in that's maybe not going to glorify them to the level that, you know.
Sometimes you actually have to send photos off for approval.
Yeah.
And you only get back, say, 5 images that are for approval, and you can't post them on your own social media. They have to just go on the publication.
Yeah. Because you know, I'm sure I've shot lots of action and a little bit of live stuff, but not like you've done. But there are moments when it doesn't look flattering for the artist, and you would just move past that photo and be like, whatever. But a tabloid photographer they're like, that's the photo.
That's their bread and butter.
Her face looks all strange because she was jumping or something, or like whatever. Because and
they
it's
attach
dynamic.
Taylor Swift is really a 45-year-old man. Look at this photo, kind of.
Yeah. So I always think about it. I always think about it in the perspective of like, if this was me, would I want this photo on the internet forever?
Exactly.
Yep.
And if the answer is no, I move on.
Yeah. That's how it should be.
Yeah. But there is photographers that I've seen that, like, I've been in the same pit where there's been girls that are like, kneeled down in front of us, and that split second of like, there's a bit of an awkward moment, and it's like they've posted that photo. And it's like, you wouldn't want that photo on the internet of your friend or you or your sister or whatever. So like, don't post it. Like, there is a bit of that sort of etiquette.
It's short-term thinking, because that you're never going to work with that artist. You're never going to.
No, exactly. And I'm like friends with a lot of like PR people and management, and like a lot of them have said like there is particular photographers that are not allowed at any of my shows. So they may have done one bad thing at one show, but then that PR person goes on to manage like 40, 50, 60 artists, and they're not allowed at any of those shows because they've done the wrong thing once. And I think that's fair enough. Like you've got to behave. And again, that goes back to like being a good person and being good.
And it wasn't like it was an accident. It's an intentional choice.
Yeah.
Especially in an industry that's so competitive. There's a million people lining up to do this. It's like, if they can someone's just going to say, no, we don't need you. We've got other people that won't do what you did. So
yeah, exactly.
I just want to jump in quickly because I am conscious of time. Justin does have to catch a flight.
I do, but I've got so many questions left.
Oh dear.
Oh my goodness.
I haven't finished them all yet. Yeah.
All right. One more question.
Oh, okay.
Make it a good one.
It's a lot of all right. You guys can pick the question or the topic. The topics available are your film cameras. Learning video coming from a photo background and shooting hybrid, or craziest stories from your career as a live music photographer.
Oh, let's go with the crazy. Well, you choose, Lucinda. It's your show.
Yeah, you choose.
I don't have that many crazy stories, to be honest.
Oh,
probably not ones that are appropriate for a podcast.
Dave Grohl didn't do something crazy and like no.
No, because I was shooting for a publication, so I wasn't backstage or anything for that show.
Dang. What do you mean? What about we'll do like a rapid fire with your film cameras?
We can rapid fire it. So film camera wise, I'm very much Polaroid girly. So I've got one sitting here. I love the old. I pull these out and people go, "What on earth is this?" So
they use one of those to make a prop in a recent Star Wars show.
Did they?
Really?
Yep. That exact camera. Yep.
So I carry one of these actively in my Pelican case. It is a thing that I use, but the great thing is that it folds up. It's meant to go in your pocket, but girls don't get pockets, so it doesn't fit in my pockets.
It's pretty big too.
It's
the patriarchy is sorry about that.
Yeah, thanks. But I love these Polaroids, and I've got this one actually tattooed on my arm. But I have about 7 of these in different varieties.
That's amazing. You're a collector.
I am a collector. I also have a lot of 35 mils. I have, what else do I have? I have lots of point and shoots. I've got a Mamiya RB67 because it was one of the first cameras I shot on when I was at school. So I finally bought one of those during COVID and I love it. I got a Pentax 6.7 with the first and only paycheck currently that I got from Rolling Stone. I did I did portraits. Yeah, there's another clanger. I did some work for Seth Century, who's an Australian hip hop artist, and they were doing like this promotion with a headphone brand, I think, and he's a bit of a gamer. So we went to his house and photographed a bunch of like photos of him in his gaming room, and like he was like out there making us cups of tea, and it was wild. So with that paycheck, I bought the Pentax 6.7, which is beautiful. I've got this wooden handle on it. It's a gorgeous piece of kit. I actually used it like 2 days ago. But I think at last count, I think there was about 145 cameras on a shelf behind me, just here.
145. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's probably you can't see it. It's tough.
I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see the shelf.
I'll send you a photo of it. But there's probably about 45 Polaroid cameras. I've got like all of the plastic Polaroid cameras. I've got multiple bellows. I've got like 7 of these SX70s. Like multiple point and shoots.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love old tech, and most of them work. So that's the other thing. I like to have film cameras that actually are working. I also shoot. I've shot a music video that premiered on MTV, on Super 8.
Oh, whoa!
Oh,
the whole video.
A whole video. Yeah. So I shot a couple of music videos on a Super 8 camera like 2 years ago. It is a very expensive process. There is someone in Daosford that processes it. But yeah, so I've got like 3 Super 8 cameras as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I can't believe you made a music video with Super 8.
Yeah, wild. The friend of mine was like, I really like the look of Super 8. Can we do it? I was like, if you pay for the processing and the film of it, then sure. Like,
yeah.
Because it's an arm and a leg. But yeah, it looks really cool. And I've just done a little bit of documenting on it. Like it's kind of a fun process. But yeah.
Is it tedious or like does it not work out a lot, or is it fairly not foolproof, but have you ever shot most things and they turned out fine, or is it like that didn't work?
Most of it. I think you only get like 2.5 minutes worth of footage on one roll of film, which is about $80 a pop, and then you've got to process it, which is about $100. So it's a very expensive exercise.
Yeah.
Do you start and stop? Like, how does it work? I've never used Super 8.
Like there's like a trigger on it, so it's almost like a machine gun almost.
Yeah.
And you focus it. Mine has metering through it, so some of them do, some of them don't. When you buy them, like some of the batteries don't work in them anymore, and it's a whole thing. But yeah, essentially you frame it up and you just hold down the trigger and then you let go and it stops filming, and then you can just keep doing that up until you finish the roll.
So if you did that, you could if you were selective with what you shoot, you can end up with a 2.5 minute video that doesn't need to be edited.
Yeah.
Because you just point it at the right moment and start and stop. That would be a great app.
So that's practically what we did.
That's
practically what we did. So we were like on these netball courts, and we were just like we did 2 full runs. We did one on a netball court and one in like an old YMCA like gym with all this like cool, colorful gym equipment. And then we just split the footage across. So we just did like 2 takes of it.
Start to finish, start, stop. Like as in just pull the trigger and rolled the whole 2.5 minutes. Oh, that's very cool.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's fun. Yeah. So lots of cameras. So whoever said that they had the biggest camera collection, I think I win.
Yeah.
You've eclipsed everybody by 10 times.
Combined. Everybody combined so far.
Combined. Yeah. Okay. Well, this question will be fun then. Zombie apocalypse.
Hang on. Can we come to your house and play? Like, can we just come and play with your cameras?
No, I was actually thinking, I'd love to get down there and just do I'll just hold a camera and you just take every one of them off the shelf and tell me about them. Just make like an unedited 30-minute video of talking about every film camera on your shelf. I think that
I do have that in the Brains Trust that I was going to do some TikToks on, like some of my favorite ones that are a bit like niche.
Oh, nice. Well, I could film it, put it on YouTube unedited, and then you can take all that footage and chop it into TikTok content. Yeah, let's do it. David Mascaro says you've got more cameras than my local camera store.
I think the most camera stores.
Okay. So if the world was ending and zombies had risen up and were trying to eat everyone's brains, what camera, if you could pick just one camera and one lens to document the end of the world, what would it be?
I think for sentimental purposes, I've got my dad's K1000 on the shelf with a 50mm on it, so I think I'd take that.
I love it.
Nice.
What film stock would you load in there to capture the zombies?
I like Kodak Portra. 400, 800. I shoot a lot. I sometimes will shoot live on Ilford 3200 Delta.
Ooh, grainy.
Yeah, grainy, real grainy. But yeah, I do like those two film stocks.
Very cool. All right. I mean, that's 80% of my questions. I think we did pretty well.
I think
we did talk about Canon for a very long time.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do? This is like my one chance. Next week it'll be back to Fuji.
Or you.
If you do ever want to talk Canon lenses, I've got a RF. Like if you get to the point where you're doing RF, I'm sure you mix with a lot of photographers in the pit too. But yeah, I've got a ton, and I've tested a heap of them. So
great.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
All right.
Anything you want to plug, Lucinda? You got anything coming up that you want people to know about?
Potentially I'm going to have a show and another exhibition in the Ballarat Photo Biennale, which is coming up. So nothing super announced about that yet, but yeah, that's something to keep your eyes peeled. September.
Yeah, it's just before BFOP.
Yeah.
Right. We got to get over there as well.
Yeah, it's really great. Any photographers who haven't been before, just it's a great little festival to go to. There's lots of cool workshops and stuff going on as well, but yeah, lots of stuff that is just like open to the public, free in like really random like alleyways and cafes and stuff.
Cafes
so you can just make it like a day of it or even a weekend of it. Ballarat's like a beautiful place to be, and lots of beautiful cafes and stuff. So
galleries too, lots of beautiful galleries.
Yeah, although the art gallery is currently closed. I went on the very last day because they're refurbing it for a year. So that's actually closed at the moment. It's one of my favorite galleries, but currently closed. So
our Bendigo gallery is getting a massive refurb late this year.
Doing all of them.
I think as well. Yeah, it's interesting. They're doing both at a similar time. Yeah, it must be a funding round. Our gallery gets a lot of great shows, so it's cool.
We're going to come and see the Frida Kahlo one soon.
Yeah.
Head over for that.
David,
last comments.
David says, "What's your oldest camera?" Maybe I beat you there. I have the 1957 Nikon SP.
Oh, I'm not entirely sure, but I know. So I get these serviced. I get these Polaroids serviced by Jake from the Instant Camera Guy, who used to be in Melbourne, but now is in I think South Australia. And the one that I actively use, which has autofocus on it, he said was one of the oldest versions of it. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure which one's my oldest one. I'd have to come back to you on that.
Yeah, well, and you're the reigning champ, David, until Lucinda comes back with some dates.
I'm still a baby, so they can't be too old.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else, Greg?
No, I think it's time to wrap. But just before we do, a couple of notes. If you're new to watching the channel, or if you're listening or watching later, either on YouTube or audio podcasts, then g'day, welcome to the Camera Life. We run two shows a week. We have our Thursday morning guest interview, as has been perfectly exemplified by Lucinda Goodwin. We also have a Monday night random photography show. We're talking about Australian times for those of you that are not on the eastern seaboard of Australia. Just check your local times in YouTube. Make sure you like today's episode. It helps us out a lot. Make sure you subscribe and tickle the bell. You'll get notifications for upcoming episodes, and every now and then we drop in some sneaky content too. So it's always best to be in the know about that. But on that note, I would like to thank today's guest for what has been a truly insightful and inspirational look into her world of music photography, not just concerts, but a whole raft of subgenres. And I think anyone that's had a look at Lucinda's work or has watched along today will agree with me that, as we said earlier, you set a lane to be a photographer, and you've stuck to your lane despite everything that was against you. And I think that's really inspirational for people to hear. And we thank you for your time today and for sharing your story and your work with us.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Oh, thanks so much. 2 hours and 13 minutes. What a show.
Excellent show.
And finally, last few comments. Dennis says, thanks so much, Lucinda. Rodney Nicholson says, absolutely enjoyable, Lucinda. David Mascaro says, yep. And Philip Johnson says, thanks, Lucinda and Justin and Greg. Good episode. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to roll the music.
Yeah, we'll see you on Monday night.